Annual Town Meeting. Today is May 9th, 1999. It is now 7:06 p.m. and we have a quorum of 104 voters, and I'm still seeing, what'd I say? Because we were just talking about 1998, so that's why
I'm not confirming that.
2009. 2019.
This is what happens when you go multiple sessions.
Yeah. Boy, huh? I know. So today is May 9th, 2019. At 7:06, we had 104 voters present. And so with the quorum reached, the tellers have been sworn, and we have Mr. Pepe, Mr. Armstrong, and Mr. Basler. The warrant having been previously declared properly noticed, and the constable return of service. And as tradition is, we waive the reading of the warrant. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you all please rise and join me in the national anthem. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gallagher said.
So, ladies and gentlemen, town meeting is run per town meeting time as the Kingston bylaws dictate. If you wish to address town meeting, raise your hand or step to the microphone, wait to be recognized, and then state your name and address. During debates on articles, keep your comments focused on the articles and do not make things personal. Let's remember to respect each other, and only one person shall speak at a time. Point of order, if you have to raise a question, just yell out point of order. Is the speaker entitled to the floor? Is what the speaker is saying or proposing irrelevant, illegal, frivolous, or contrary to procedure? Is any pending action frivolous, irrelevant, illegal, or contrary to procedure? These are not seconded, debated, amended, or reconsidered. It's moderator's sole discretion. Question of privilege is whether or not your rights are being affected at the meeting, so whether or not your safety, dignity, integrity, volume, temperature, which we had, of course, Tuesday night, noise interference with ability to hear, speak, or participate. Please yell privilege, question of privilege. Now, again, there's been discussion releasing that people have felt intimidated at town meeting. Please remember that each voter has the right to vote as they choose. Do not confront, ask why, or intimidate any other voters. I know we had that Tuesday night, I'm sad to say. I had many people contact me that they had been confronted by their vote. I find that appalling, personally and as the moderator. So I ask everyone, please just respect that. You can all have your own view. You don't need to confront other people. Motion to amend, you can make the motion that it must be put in writing. It cannot be debated until it's in writing, and then it will be debated after it's seconded. Motion to reconsider is pursuant to Kingston Bylaw. It must be made before the final adjournment of the session, which I do believe will be tonight, and orally at this session, or it can be in writing by 10 a.m. the next business day if the meeting does not come to a close. Motions to call the question. If you feel that debate has gone on long enough, you can step to the microphone, call the question, but you can't debate first. I ask that you leave the doorways in areas open. That's for fire and safety reasons. I ask that everybody be seated unless they're speaking, and then step outside for conversations. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go on to the first article we'll open with is Article 31. Then we will move on to Article 34 to 39. So that's going to be the order tonight because, as you know, we already heard 32 and 33, and 31 was held over, but we didn't get to it Tuesday night. So ladies and gentlemen, moving to Article 31. And ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'd like to ask Mr. Martin. He's going to ask you to address this and explain what it is.
Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Moved. Find the page.
You don't want my page numbers, we know
No,
those are
I
wrong.
don't. Your page numbers are out somewhere. Move that the town accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clauses 22G and 22H as printed in the warrant.
Having seconded on that, ladies and gentlemen, Board of Selectmen voted favorable 5-0-0, and the Finance Committee voted favorable 4-1-0. Mr. Martin, do you wish to address this, or are you going to default to the Town Council? I wasn't sure if you had asked me. I thought somebody had asked me if you were going to ask Town Council.
The biggest thing here is, if those of you who read the Article 31 in this book, the one that says supporting documentation, don't look at it. Doesn't say the whole thing. That was taken out of the Assessors Association blurb, which was incorrect. So, let's just make it real simple.
There was a separate handout, Mr. Martin, just in case. This one was handed out after the fact?
There's
Is
been
that the one?
2 or 3 others handed out. There is one handed out that says Article 31, interested in reading more, on the very bottom in small print. That's pretty much covers it. What it says is, we reduce the eligibility, and this is not a local option, but I think it's just information. Changes the eligibility from 5 years to 2 years to one of these options, and allows POWs to qualify for it with documentation from the VA. Local option starts here. Trust. If you have property, it is a trust. And please don't shoot me in the back. This is part of the fair employment for all attorneys. If you have a trust on your house, it's been, depending on the town, some towns have said, fine, if it's at your domicile, no problem. Some towns have said, no, you can't do it because it's in a trust. Well, the law straightens that out. It says, yes, as long as it's your domicile, that is the veteran or any other exemption, it's okay. This is, the second part of this is Clause 22H. This is new. The parents of a serviceman killed in the line of duty in combat are entitled to a total exemption on their tax. This mirrors what happens to first responders, mirrors what happens to the spouse of a veteran who's killed. So they're saying the same thing with the parents. The difference is, before somebody asks, the others are reimbursed by the state. The parents will not be reimbursed by the state. So just, if there's a question, you know that ahead of time, not putting the wall of your head. And I will also tell you, I've been the Veterans Nation for 23 years, almost. We've been at war officially during that entire period, because we went to war, according to the federal government, in 1990, and we have not stopped. In that period of time, there are no parents of Kingston residents who would be eligible for that exemption. So it's not something that's 10 people going to show up out of the blue to do it. No, nobody has been able to cover that in 23 years that I know of, and probably longer. Madam Moderator?
Thank you, Mr. Martin. So any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with minimal opposition. Mr. Martin, don't go anywhere yet. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank, and I'd like you to all join me in thanking Mr. Martin for, first, his service as a naval veteran and his 23 years of service here for all veterans in Kingston. Okay, moving on now to Article 34. Mr. Warren, thank you.
Move that the town amend the Town of Kingston general bylaws to amend Article 22 of Chapter 4 of its general bylaws by adding a new section 4-22 as printed in the warrant.
I have a second on that. We're at 31. Mr. Warren, you can address your motion.
This article is a housekeeping article. It'll establish a bylaw for the composition and purpose of the Recreation Commission, which was instituted at a previous town meeting. The town body voted to establish a rec commission, but it's not currently in our bylaws. This will put it in the bylaws.
Great. Thank you. Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries with minimal opposition. Article 35, our animal control officer. Thank you. And I remind you all that we amended the opening motion to allow her to speak, so. Ms. Boudreau, if you can address or move the article.
Yes. Move to amend Article 5, Section 10-5-1, B, Paragraph 2 of Chapter 10, Animal Control. Canine daycare facilities shall maintain one staff person on the premises.
Hold on a second, that's not the, that's not.
Oh, right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's going to address it, but yes, thank you to remind me that.
Yes. Move that the town amend the Town of Kingston general bylaws to amend Chapter 4, Article 5 of its general bylaws as printed in the warrant.
Thank you, Ms. Fiore. Do I have a second? That being seconded, Board of Selectmen have favorable 5-0-0 vote. Ms. Boudreau, if you can tell us about the article.
Absolutely. Thank you. Dog daycare facilities have become a fast-growing business in the country over the past decade. Since 2010, the town of Kingston has welcomed 3 such businesses. When the first center opened in town in 2010, the only state in the country that had any laws regulating these facilities was Colorado. Since then, many states have referred to Colorado bylaws as a guideline in creating their own bylaws, as did Kingston. Currently, Massachusetts still does not have any laws regulating doggy daycare facilities. So in 2013, Chapter 10, Article 5, kennel regulations was amended to include regulations for canine daycare facilities in town. So due to the popularity in recent years of these facilities, attendance at the facilities has seen a huge increase. However, the ratio of employee to dogs has not. As a result, the number of incidents resulting in injuries, such as bites to employees, as well as injuries to dogs caused from dog-on-dog fights at these facilities, reported to or investigated by Animal Control, has seen an increase. Each year, the Animal Control Department conducts annual inspections of the doggy daycare facilities, and as each owner will tell you, my main concern when reviewing my findings with them is the need for more employees per dogs at the facilities. Monitoring or managing 15 dogs at one time by one person alone is a recipe for disaster. We all know dogs will be dogs and fights do happen. Believe me, they do. Any dog within ear or eye shot of a dog fight, more often than not, will jump right into the mix out of instinct. I know if my dog was attending one of these facilities, knowing that there was more than one person readily available on hand to break up a situation, if it occurs, preventing any injury would give me peace of mind. So let Kingston be a leader in making these facilities safer for both human and canine alike. By increasing the ratio of staff per dog can only help to reduce the number of injuries in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau.
Thank you, Madam.
Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion carries with minimal opposition. Moving on to Article 36. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 36 will not be moved. Moving on to Article 37. Mr. Marabito.
Move that the town amend Section 2-2-9 of Town Bylaws to now read, "Conduct governed by town meeting time, a handbook of parliamentary law. The conduct of the meeting, not specially provided by the law or these bylaws, shall be determined by the rules of practice contained in town meeting time, a handbook of parliamentary law, so far as the same applicable to town meeting. The following special provisions from town meeting time apply to those who wish to speak or take any other action relative thereto. There shall be no congregating in the aisles. When people wish to speak, they should rise in place and address themselves, not to the meeting or to any particular member, but to the moderator, who will call on them by name if he or she knows it, or ask their name if he or she does not. B, the moderator shall decide who has the floor and in what order. No one is to speak without leave of the moderator. It is the duty of the moderator to ensure that the debate is fair to proponents and opponents of each motion. C, no one is to speak impertinently or beside the question, superfluously or tediously. Cross-examination of town officials is out of order.
That being seconded, ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Selectmen has favorable 3-1-1 vote. Mr. Mirabito, if you'd like to address your motion.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Last year, Kingston Annual Town Meeting dissolved when it took 11 hours to slog through 28 articles. We were unable to assemble a quorum on day 4, so 16 articles, almost 40% of the warrant, was not debated or voted upon. In the past 3 years, Kingston averaged 4 days to complete the town's business. In 2017, it took 5 days. There is no other town in this region that even comes close to that degree of sacrifice. Plymouth and Duxbury completed their town meetings in 2 days for each of the past 3 years. And in this same period, Pembroke always completed theirs in a single day. So here we are again on day number 3. A third day is hard to make for most of us. Most of us lead busy lives. People who work, people with kids, people who serve others. I applaud the moderator for helping us pick up the pace on Saturday. She does not have an easy job. We did get through Article 33, which is a personal best for Kingston. Nevertheless, our town is deeply divided. There are some in this assembly who use Facebook to solicit residents to vote no on everything. They claim to want to send a message to elected officials. I myself have been accused of wanting to silence debate. That can't be further from the truth. I want to create conditions for real and fair debate, where one party respectfully presents their side and the other party is able to rebut in a fair and concise fashion. Our bylaws say we follow town meeting time, this book. But somewhere along the way, new traditions superseded the wisdom that this book prescribes. Nowhere in this book does it allow for one side to stack up speakers at the mic to be called on first and second and third. In fact, Section 62 of this book, Decorum in Debate, says when people wish to speak, they should rise in place. The Secretary of State's website reaffirms this. It says, stand up and wait for the moderator to acknowledge you. It is, unfortunately, it has become our general practice to set up open mics in each aisle, allowing opponents to rise together while motions are being read, and to queue up before they are recognized. Proponents, on the other hand, have to often wait for the queue of no voters to clear before they can offer any rebuttal or subsequent motion. It is the duty of the moderator to fairly moderate debate in order to respect the time of the whole assembly, to preserve our quorum, and to complete town meeting in 2 days or less, like every other town in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabito. Ms. Coleman.
Hi, Jean Coleman, 20 Howlands Lane. I just have a couple comments to make about his motion. I feel like this article would be superseding power over the moderator, who is the one who's supposed to be in charge of town meeting. And I have an issue with the stand and be recognized when this body had 420 people in the room the other night. To stand and be recognized could get it's subjective. It's very subjective. Whereas a line at the microphone allows the moderator to call on the person who's next in line. If she doesn't want to hear the debate, which she has made clear a couple of times, or doesn't want to call the question, she'll say that. And that's her responsibility as the moderator. She's an elected official. I also feel like the person who's making the motion for these articles is sometimes contradictory in that, he says that he wants to listen to both sides of the debate, and every other day I find out that he blocks me on Facebook, and I can see that through comments. So it's kind of, ironic that he would say that he wants to listen to everybody who has differing opinions than him, yet he does not want to do that. He only wants to listen to people that have the same opinions as him. So if you truly want to be partial and hear both sides of a debate, then you would be willing to listen to both sides of the debate, including 3 people in a row that have a differing opinion than you. I think that would be silencing a crowd to stop after the first or second person just because they have the same opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. I have Mr. Fonce, and then I have Mr. Gallagher.
John Michael Fonce, 16 May Avenue. I would encourage the body not to vote in support of this. We have town meeting time that we already follow. We trust in the moderator to do her job as best she can. We have recourse if we're not satisfied. The moderator is a voted position. I'll be the first to tell you there's been times where I've loved you, and there's been times where I'm like, it happens, you're a moderator. You're not gonna make everyone happy, right? So I think that if the voters vote for the moderator, great. If they don't, they vote for someone else. I don't think that putting in these types of mechanisms is really necessary. I have a great deal of concern with the stand in place as well. As was mentioned, you have 300-400 people in here. I would not want to be the moderator as it is, never mind having to figure out who's standing to go to the bathroom versus who's standing to be heard. And I think you're setting yourself up for disaster in terms of someone standing and saying, hey, I was standing and I never got recognized. I think that that's going to be really problematic, and I think that's going to contribute to even more division, people feeling like they're not being recognized. Another issue that I have is this notion of labeling people as proponents and opponents based on who's standing in line. I would like to think that I extend the credit to my fellow citizens that I really don't know where they're going to stand on an issue. I mean, you look at last night, I'm certainly not going to sit here and name names of how people voted, but there were some good friends of mine in the back corner that every single marijuana article, I voted one way and they voted another. Now, I know there are people in this room that would group us together as the opponents, but it just so happens that last night our votes were literally divided the entire night. So I don't know how you can sit there and label people as opponents and proponents until they speak. So I'm not really sure what the logic is on that. So I would urge you not to support this.
Thank you. Mr. Gallagher.
Paul Gallagher, 8 Longview Drive, as a resident. I can appreciate the work some of these people have put in to try to change things to make them flow a little bit faster. I want to give credit to everyone, whether it's the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee, who have produced a great budget for us on a timely manner and presented it to us with a great deal of information. I think that has helped us to make this more fluid. I think we go on more often than not because we've had controversial articles, more so than other towns have as well. So let me get to my point. I've been in town for almost 30 years, and I have been participating since day one. And I remember the days where we stood in place, and someone ran from that side to that side with a microphone, and then ran over here with a microphone, and over there. We changed those procedures to go in line because it was more efficient. People that wanted to speak were readily available. They just stepped to the mic and they made their comment. I don't want to see this go back to the old ages where we're standing in place and running around with microphones. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Randall.
Brad Randall, 39 Winter Street. So I support Mr. Marabito's motion here. We've had controversial articles. Mr. Gallagher is absolutely correct, but just running off the top of my head last year, I can't think about any one that particularly stood out. It does seem that even non-controversial articles tend to drag on for a long time in debate, and you can make up your own mind as to why that happens. In my opinion, Article 37 would increase the moderator's power and allow the moderator to moderate. It's not subjective when the moderator has to decide who has the floor, in what order, and the duty of the moderator is to ensure the debate is fair, proponents and opponents get to speak on each motion. So in my mind, that would mean Ms. Wallace would pick a proponent, then she'd pick an opponent, and it wouldn't be lining up at the microphone and first come, first serve type of thing. In terms of causing division, at what point do we stop trying to make everybody happy? Are we going to do that? Are we going to do it today? We have to go through town meeting. We have people here who do have children. We have people here who do sacrifice. We have people here who do have busy lives. We have a duty to them as well to make our government accessible and reasonable. So I would strongly urge support of Mr. Marabito's motion.
Thank you. Ms. Sherman.
Susan Sherman, 215 Main Street. First of all, I was a part of this group that was meeting to, quote, make the town meeting more user-friendly, I think was the word. And I totally agreed with that because I was pretty upset at the time that we had no lights half the time in this facility. So it seemed very dark. That was taken care of. Unfortunately, the temperature was not taken care of, as we all witnessed. Well, I don't know if you witnessed it, but over here it was very hot in most of the auditorium. I don't want to see this taken away. I agree with what Paul said totally. I was present when we had the one mic or the two mics going from person to person. It took longer. It was silly. For you, Madam Moderator, to determine, is he going to be speaking pro, is he going to be speaking con, that's just going to take more time. I think we get through this. I think we followed town meeting times. I urge you, I don't know why the Selectmen would take on such an issue like this and vote the way they do. I'm quite surprised. It is important to follow town meeting times and our moderator. And I would urge you to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marabito?
Yeah, I just want to respond to something Mr. Gallagher just said. I understand that maybe theoretically it would take more time if you waited and called upon someone to step forward on the mic, to the mic. But on Saturday, for most of the meeting, that's exactly what we did. We did not see the congregating in the aisles that we normally see. And in fact, most of the opponents stood in the back and waited to be recognized. And Madam Moderator, you called on people fairly. I applaud you for that. And on Saturday, we actually moved the meeting along. And we're able to get through 33 articles, which is a personal best for Kingston. So I don't think it will take more time to call on people and move to the mic. I think it will allow proponents to be able to get to the mic sooner to rebut or perhaps do a subsequent motion like move the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Kennedy, you were next? Okay.
David
Thank
Kennedy, 13 Copper Beach Drive. I'd like to move the question. Thank you.
I'll take it. I think people have a strong view, and I think that people have probably already made up their mind about this one. So I'm going to move the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. This is to move the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Do you call that a majority? I'm calling that a majority. Motion carries. Majority call by moderator on voice count. Ladies and gentlemen, on Article 37. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion does not carry with, on a voice count. Motion to reconsider on, by Ms. Coleman. And that having been seconded, ladies and gentlemen, if you vote yes on a motion to reconsider, it would be to reopen debate and to revote Article 37. So that would be a yes vote. To close debate and not discuss it again would be a no vote. All those in favor on the motion to reconsider, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion does not carry. Moving on to Article 38. I'm going to take a field of Article 38 about the phone con mics. It's fine. Because I think other towns do.
Move that the town replace Section 2-2-11 of town's general bylaws with the following. Motions to reconsider. Motions to reconsider shall not be permitted.
Do I have a second? Second. That being seconded, ladies and gentlemen, Board of Selectmen has favorable vote 500. Mr. Mirabito.
Motions to reconsider prolonged town meetings. Such a motion is seen by many supporters of an article as the only way to safely lock in their prevailing vote at town meeting and to protect it from those who might file motions to reconsider after prevailing voters leave town meeting. Town meeting time, Section 37, is titled The Tradition Against Reconsideration. It states, in many towns where reconsideration is permitted, it is surrounded with restrictions protecting the prevailing side from what is considered to be an unfair flank attack. Motions to reconsider should not be another bite at the apple. It won't change the vote, and it should not be a measure to lock in a vote unless new information is provided. That is the intent of a motion to reconsider, but unfortunately, very often in this assembly, it just chews up the clock and takes up time unnecessarily. We can move to strike it, and I urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mirabito. Mr. Fons?
Yes, John Michael Font, 16 May Avenue. I would urge the body actually not to support this. In all honesty and full transparency, I started out when I first heard of this idea. I also was on the ad hoc committee that had the initial intent of improving town meeting. And when I first heard of this idea of getting rid of the motion to reconsider, I was initially supportive of it because at first I too looked at it as, oh man, it just takes up time. Every single time something goes through, someone wants to lock it in, they motion to reconsider, so it's a dead issue and it just ends up taking up a lot of time. So my initial thoughts were, yeah, let's just get rid of it. But then I started to think about, well, why would it be there in the first place? Someone came up with the idea to put it there. And it wasn't just to make it so you have to vote on everything twice. There was a reason for it. Not looking to dig up old issues, but one of the things that changed my mind was when there was an article to be heard and there was a member of the Board of Assessors that wanted to speak to it and for whatever reason wasn't able to speak to it and the article went through and moved forward. To me, that's a situation where if it's the next morning before 10 a.m. or if it's later in the meeting, if that person really had something to say and it was an article that pertained to their board or whatever it may be, I see that as an ideal situation where you want the motion to reconsider to say, hey, this person has new information. They wanted to present it, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to. So that's something that really changed my mind. I understand that it's become basically a mechanism to lock in votes here in town, and it does take up time. I get that. And believe me, I've had articles that I supported. They went the way I wanted them to, and then I get home later that night, and I'm like, oh, did we reconsider that? Oh, no, and you start to worry about it, right? So it can be a pain in the rear end, but I think it's worth keeping. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion does not carry. Because it was a moderator's call, you can do a count. You can request a count. But 7 citizens need to stand, so whoever called for the count, if you get 7, I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's count it.
Who asked for the recount?
I believe it was Warrant. Oh, yeah. Your hair's different down.
A lot shorter than the other night.
That is a point of order, so that supersedes the motion to reconsider. So the count comes prior as a, if that's what you're asking? I don't know who did the point of order, I was just answering that.
We're counting up the vote for the article itself, not the motion to reconsider,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Correct. The motion to reconsider is a subsidiary, so because the call for a count was done, that becomes a main. So that now is going to be, so right now, we're going to count originally the vote on Article 38. So all those in favor of Article 38, orange card in the air. This is going to be tighter, I think. Interesting. Mr. Basler.
33.
Mr. Basler's 33. Mr. Pepe. 13. Mr. Pepe is 13. Mr. Armstrong. 16. 16. Paul, Mr. Basler, you were 33, correct? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, all those in opposition, orange card in the air. Mr. Basler.
1, 3,
13.
13.
Mr. Basler's 13. Mr. Pepe. 20. Mr. Pepe is 20. Mr. Armstrong.
18, 1, 8.
18. 51. Ladies and gentlemen, on a voice count, the motion carries with 62 in favor and 51 in opposition. Because any request for standing count on a vote automatically supersedes. It's just the way it works, that supersedes the motion to reconsider. Even after it's been reconsidered? But it hadn't been reconsidered. I hadn't gotten a second on the reconsideration. I didn't hear it. I didn't hear a second because I was hearing a count. Somebody called a count over here, and that's what I heard, and that automatically makes me stop and go back to a count. A count still trumps. I'm just trying to tell you, a count call trumps. I did not go forward on the motion to reconsider. Don't really know. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. I mean, I didn't hear a second, and I got the count because the count was yelled. I have to remember, I can hear things that you guys can't hear. So, because the way the volume of the auditorium works. So we have a count. It's the way it is. The motion carries 62 to 51.
Point of order.
Second.
Wait.
Point of order by Mr. Marabito.
I hate to do this to myself, but I actually think that this vote requires 2/3. Did we get 2/3?
It's a
No, it's a
majority vote
general-
because it's
it's
a
a
general bylaw.
Oh,
It's not a zoning, so it's a general bylaw, so it's a majority vote.
And someone called the motion to reconsider.
All right, motion to reconsider now? I know, I heard it. Who made it? Oh, Ms. Coleman?
Second.
I have a second. On the motion to reconsider, ladies and gentlemen, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Now, again, I'm sorry. To reconsider would reopen debate and to rediscuss it and revote the article. That's a yes vote. A no vote is to end debate and not discuss it again. So all those in favor on motion to reconsider say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. Motion does not carry. Point of order? It was you? Okay.
Board, I'd like to call for a recorded vote.
You want to call for a recorded vote?
Standing vote.
You want it counted?
Yes.
A counted vote, okay. 7 people stand for a counted vote.
Thank you.
6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to count on the motion to reconsider. Not debating. Unless it's allowed, and then it would be redebated.
They're never allowed.
It would be gone, right. No, it's abolishing reconsideration, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we're doing the motion to reconsider. So a yes vote, once again, reopens debate and we vote the article. So all those in favor of reconsideration, orange card in the air, please. Mr. Armstrong, I reversed that one, Mr. Basler. Mr. Basler's 10, Mr. Pepe.
22.
22, Mr. Armstrong.
18, 1-8.
1-8. Ladies and gentlemen, all those opposed to the motion to reconsider, which would end debate and close it. Orange cards in the air. Mr. Basler? Mr. Basler's 39. Mr. Pepe?
14.
Mr. Pepe is 14. Mr. Armstrong?
15, 1-5.
1-5, 15. Ladies and gentlemen, the motion does not carry with 68 in opposition and 54. 50 yes votes, not 54. 50 yes votes. So the motion to reconsider does not carry.
Madam Moderator, may I inquire? Do we have it in our bylaws that we follow town meeting time?
We do?
So how is it that we can have a bylaw that now removes part of town meeting time from our procedures?
Because you can have a bylaw that alters the town meeting time. 2 things happened, just so people understand. Our bylaw said, when I first became moderator, it was the first article that I proposed in order for us to follow town meeting time, because we used to follow Robert's rules. Very convoluted. So town meeting time is specifically geared towards town meetings. So, but the one thing that happens with moderators, for everybody to understand, is as a moderator, when you step in, you also have to take the customs of the town. So the customs of the town have to come into play on what have been the habits of this town particularly about things. And just so that you understand, under one of the things that happens in Kingston is that motions to reconsider have been used to lock in votes. That's not the intent of motion to reconsider. A motion to reconsider was intended for new information. So normally what would happen, if I was following town meeting time, I would actually have to ask the person who stood, did you vote in favor of the article? It's favor, right? Yeah. We don't use it, so I don't even follow it. I haven't read it up on again. Are you in favor of it? You have to swear that you voted in favor of it, and then you can move that new, move to reconsider that there's new information. And part of that is you would normally say, new information, we need to hear this, that, or whatever else. Then it would be seconded, and then it would be voted. So that's how reconsiderations are meant to be, but that's not the way Kingston has ever done them. So it's been always used historically in Kingston the other way. So now, town meeting time's in it, but our bylaws supersede. So because our bylaw says town meeting time, this bylaw now is going to say, we're using town meeting time with the exception of reconsiderations.
Okay,
Because it's a later bylaw altering the prior bylaw.
okay.
So
All
it
right.
is legit. Yep.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense, like, to have one article moved to say, let's follow town meeting time, and then the next one to say, except for that. But it makes sense
yeah,
now.
Right.
Thank
right.
you.
Something else I'd just like to get a feel for the board, if everybody doesn't mind, I'd like to just kind of hear. Some other towns do this, and that's one of the things that Bill Marabito and I have discussed. Many towns do pro and con mics, so that you have a pro mic and a con mic. So on any article, it's a pro mic and a con mic. And then you have people up, so a moderator can do a fair debate, because you do a pro, you do a con, you do a pro, you do a con. And then as it goes down, when you have only one side up talking, is the moderator can then conclude the debate, seeing that most people have discussed it. So, how many people would like to see a pro and con mic? Either one. Yeah. I mean, we could start and say questions to the front, but again, that question thing was not my favorite by any means, just in nature on that. How many are opposed to a pro and con mic? Okay. Just getting a feel, because I'd like to get a feel, because, I've been to other town meetings, and it's very interesting how other towns do things sometimes.
All right.
Yes.
My name's Paul Van Tangely, 5 Brightside Avenue. We are talking about Article 37, correct? Because we've gone
Yes.
off on all
That was
kinds of
motion to
things.
reconsider, yeah.
Now we're talking about reconsidering it. I think that we ought to not approve Article 37. The cool
It's too
thing-
late. It's already locked in. 37's done, foreclosed, probably the last motion to reconsider that will be
Okay,
heard
all
in the
right.
town of Kingston.
That's what I was asking.
On the motion to reconsider.
I misunderstood you then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it didn't pass, so that means we didn't reopen the debate. 38, yeah.
38.
And 37 was locked in.
Okay.
He's talking about reconsider, yeah.
All right, could you
37
please-
was locked in,
Could you
too.
please tell us again what Article 38 is?
38 now has done a prohibition against motion to reconsider. So when we're done and we take a vote, that's
Right.
it. There's no more
Okay.
motion to reconsider and another vote.
It'll just go, there'll be no more,
No more.
no more.
So no the next day, somebody filing to
Really?
request to have it
Well,
reheard.
Personally, I think that's something that.
Yeah,
the
but
town
that's
ought-
what we just all voted, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And thank you for the feedback on the pro and con mics.
Now, Madam Moderator, Chris Blake, 32 Reed Street, does a motion for rescission, does that exist here? I'm new in town from 2015.
Motion for rescissions are under town meeting time.
Thank you.
Yep. Do you want to explain a motion to rescind? We have it right here, but it's kind of, but they're a little different, yeah. It just says
it's like a
rescission, on the other
repeal.
hand, is an effective combination of a vote to reconsider and a vote to annul the previous action.
It
So it's to
repeals it.
rescind the prior action. So it has a higher standing though, too, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's not common because you're not going to then reconsider it. You repeal what had just happened, so.
right. Are you guys really gonna do this? No. Ms. Coleman, are you rescinding, moving up to rescind? Second. You can. I mean, well, actually, let me see. I don't know if it can follow a reconsideration. Now that, wait a minute, I think there's
locked
one.
in. It's locked in.
It's locked in. I think you can't rescind after you've reconsidered.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's locked in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking back on rescind is a limited use on it though, so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Article 39. Mr. Harlow is going to move that for Mr. Bonsek, because Mr. Bonsek is actually getting appointed as I would say, like the Grand Poobah, but Masonic Lodge, 3rd level knight, or whatever it's called. So, and he's moved it twice now for town meeting, so he had to attend tonight. So Mr. Harlow is going to move this.
Madam Moderator, move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to enact a special act providing for the town of Kingston to modify the format of its town meeting as follows. Subsection 1. Annual and special town meetings will allow for certain articles to be identified in advance of town meeting to be voted on by official ballot in order to increase voter participation for the most important articles affecting town residents. Subsection 2. The specific criteria for which articles will go to official ballot be determined by the selectmen when drafting the petition to the legislature, but at a minimum should include a provision that allows registered voters to petition for an article to go to official ballot, a set of general guidelines on the types of articles that may or may not go to official ballot. Subsection 3, town meeting will continue to be conducted in a manner similar to current town meeting format.
Do I have a second? Second. That being seconded, ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Selectmen, I think, is waiting to hear from the, oh, you have, okay, you have a vote, sorry. It just didn't make mine. The Board of Selectmen vote is 0-4-0. Unfavorable. Mr. Hollow.
So essentially what trying to do is actually increase voter participation. Currently, there's approximately 3 times as many registered voters, if not more, that vote at during election times as there are that attend town meeting. There's no attempt to actually get rid of town meeting whatsoever. Essentially, the goal is that you still have it open for debate. The articles will get debated, motions can be made and whatnot, but then the actual vote will end up going to a ballot, so that will be done in a secretive manner, so you won't get voter intimidation. And you also won't be falsely labeled as an opponent in a group in a corner of a room, which, again, if you ask me, completely inappropriate type comments that take place on a daily basis. So there are many towns in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts that use the official ballot method. There are people who will say that voters won't be informed. I'd actually argue that they'd become more informed. The goal is actually to have information presented 60 to 90 days ahead of a vote so that people can get all the information. The debate can be taking place. People can therefore, as a result, incorporate it, absorb it, as opposed to situations that may have taken place, for example, on Tuesday night where, again, ultimately there is some confusion that does take place. So again, it does allow actually for better information and more information to get out to the voting public. Additionally, I know there's a lot of concern about the time required for town meeting compared to other towns. This would actually most likely expedite the process in a number of manners or a number of ways. One would be that you wouldn't have to call to do voice votes or actual tallies of cards or whatnot. I don't know if the moderator had taken time, but the counts the other night for the card counts ate up a significant amount of time, which again, I'm not against that, but I know that is a concern for people. Additionally, it's not everybody, but I do hear people who commonly say, you know, they either have something going on with their kids or they have work and they can't make it. They might be out of town. Doing this would allow for voting in a typical manner in which people would be able to go into a private booth. They'd be able to vote privately without worries, and ultimately they'd be able to vote their conscience actually as town council had suggested. I'm actually surprised that the Board of Selectmen voted unfavorably for this. I would think that they'd want to increase the democratic participation. So again, it is disappointing to see that that's how they voted.
I know, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Hollow. I have Mr. Randall, Ms. Fiore, Mr. Hollow, then Mr. Kennedy.
Brad Randall, 39 Winter Street. So this article, it concerns me a little bit. I do wish the petitioner was here. We all remember this past election. There was an enormous amount of disinformation that was disseminated to the residents of Kingston. Town meeting is a place where people can come and get the facts from the people who have the jobs that collect that information in town. With the process we went through for, say, Article 22, the wastewater treatment expansion, we had ample advance notice to the public about what was coming. There were meetings upon meetings. There was the opportunity for the public to come to those meetings, and I would remind people. And so I don't think that, for, say, on Article 22, there would be anything different if we were going to the ballot. It would have been the same process. You'd get the same information. In our town elections, some years were under 10%. All right, so the idea that it's going to increase voter participation, why don't you increase voter participation?
Thank you, Mr. Randall. I have Ms. Fiore.
I'm opposed to this. We all make a choice to come to these town meetings. We did a lot of prep work ahead of time to make sure everybody got as much information as possible. My birthday was Tuesday night. I spent it with all of you. and got chastised for a vote I made. So, my concern with this article is there's a lot of confusion that can happen from the time the debate occurs, discussion occurs here. Everything is fresh on everybody's mind. You make a vote. If there is any lag in time from a public debate like this to a vote, confusion's going to occur. It won't be, it'll all be on social media. Everything is falling apart. This isn't good, which creates confusion. That confusion will be at the ballot box. I would rather have a body of people. We had over 400 people here Tuesday night. So if people are concerned and interested, they come, they debate, they talk, we vote. And again, any lag time is dangerous for the future of articles for town meeting. Something is left to somebody's own interpretation based on what's on social media or talking to a friend, rather than being here with legal counsel if we need an interpretation of something. So I urge you to please vote unfavorable for this.
Thank you, Ms. Fiore. I have Mr. Hollow, Mr. Cortland.
Cortland Hollow, 31 Howlands Lane. I believe freedom works best when it's in the hands of many as opposed to the hands of a few. And I believe that the more people, even if I disagree with them, that come out, they'll go and speak what the town really believes as opposed to a small group of people. So I support this article. In addition to that, a lot of people I speak with, when I discuss with them about votes coming up, they ask, is it going to be at the ballot or is it going to be at town meeting? Because they don't want to go to town meeting and spend the whole day. I'll even say on Saturday, my brother and I had a significant business meeting in New York City. We came to town meeting because, again, we want to participate in it because we believe it's important, but we also had an important business meeting in New York City. So immediately upon the termination of town meeting on Saturday, my brother and I drove all the way down to New York City, got into Manhattan about 7 p.m., and we stayed there till 1 a.m., and then we literally drove all the way back and got back to Kingston at 4:30 in the morning. If I had the opportunity to not attend town meeting because I already know what my decisions are going to be, I'd rather just be able to go into a ballot box like any other time and cast my vote within a few minutes, and if I happen not to be around that day, I could do an absentee ballot. So I support this article. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollow. I have Mr. Kennedy.
I'd like to move the question.
I'm not going to take that yet. I'll allow the one speaking, and then I'll take your question. Sorry, I can't even read my own writing. Mr. Fons.
Yes, John Michael Font, 16 May Avenue. I have a number of issues with not supporting this. I think this is a great idea. I think, honestly, there's a great deal of hypocrisy in this room right now. Obviously not going to name names, but we've heard about issues of accessibility to government. I can think of no better way to give more accessibility to people to be able to vote than to put it on a ballot. I mean, yeah, we give childcare, right? But then childcare ends, and what happens? A significant amount of people in the room have to get up and leave. I have a problem with that. I don't think that that's right, and I don't think that that's fair. And I think a perfect solution to that is to put it on a ballot. And I think even better, the fact that we can still come in here, those of us who want to debate, those of us who want to be front row to the information, great. And honestly, I have concerns that our leaders somehow don't trust the citizens to inform themselves and make informed decisions. That's concerning to me. I trust that the citizens of Kingston can do their research. They're not just going to read on Facebook. And also, I find it rather offensive to imply that if you don't like the way the town's going, that somehow you're misinformed or confused. And another thing, this notion that a ballot is going to create more confusion, I'll tell you right now, I come to as many town meetings as I can. I've been coming here for a few years now. You know what we had in this room on Tuesday night? We had confusion, okay? So the idea that being in here somehow eliminates confusion is a false notion in every sense of that term, okay?
Mr. Fons, wrap it up.
Yes. Okay. So I don't support this. I think it's a great way to get more people involved and more people voting, and I would urge you to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. I have now Mr. Warren.
Joshua Warren, 111 South Street. Participation at town meeting does leave much to be desired, and I applaud you all for coming out tonight. You're missing, I'm sure, your children's piano lessons, basketball practice, work obligations, or just a relaxing night at home.
Bruins.
And
Oh,
the
yeah,
Bruins,
Bruins.
I'm sorry. And all across the United States, local municipalities are struggling with energizing, educating, and engaging a widely apathetic electorate, or just simply folks who can't be here due to all those other obligations. But bringing the Australian ballot to Kingston is not the silver bullet that we've been told it will be. Studies have shown that when financial matters and big-ticket items are moved to the ballot box, town meeting attendance plummets. As the kids say, and I get to say that because it wasn't too long ago that I was one, the struggle is real. But by removing the decision-making process on financial matters from the town meeting floor, the struggle to gather a quorum will be that much greater. A vote in support of the Australian ballot is a vote to forfeit our ability to amend articles, fine-tune issues, and most importantly, listen to and employ the ideas of others. Democracy is widely regarded as the best form of government. Even by its cynics, it's regarded as the least bad form of government. Yes, democracy is great, but the democratic process isn't always simple and it's not always black and white. If we walk away from town meeting and walk into the voting booth, all that gray area on a potentially complicated issue is reduced to black and white. Instantly, yes and no become our only options, and as we've seen at town meeting on Saturday and on Tuesday, things are not that simple. The Australian ballot is nothing more than a simple way to say no, a dangerous prospect when compromise can be found, and I believe we found that here, or better ideas may rise to the surface when we're allowed to meet with our neighbors face to face to discuss the issues of the day. In 2019, these opportunities are few and far between. Embracing these rare opportunities and working to improve them rather than eliminate them is why I urge the body to vote no on this article.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Ladies and gentlemen, just for clarity, Mr. Harlow, I have Mr. Gallagher, Ms. Coleman, Ms. Kramer, and then those were the ones I had when I said I was going to then go to the motion, move the question. So we'll see how that goes with that point, all right? I just want everybody to know that's where we're at. I don't mean to sit down, Mr. Basler, because maybe people will want to continue to debate, but that's where we're at. Mr. Harlow.
So just a couple responses to some of the comments that have been made. For example, 10% of voter turnout would still be approximately 900 people, which is better than the approximate 1% of voter turnout that we have here tonight. So I don't think that really holds much water. Additionally, the concept about lag in time, well, I think that begs the question of, if the concern is lag in time, why are we trying to get the warrant out sooner if the lag in time is going to create a lot of chaos and whatnot? So I think that's contrary to what the Board of Selectmen is actually doing. So the statement that the lag in time would create confusion, well, that's exactly what they're essentially doing by trying to get the warrant out sooner, is they're creating a lag in time. So again, I don't think that holds any water. And with regard to misinformation and whatnot, one of the things I think that's interesting is that it's always touted that come to town meeting, you get all the facts. You don't. So for example, with the sewer article, for example, I'm not saying that it would necessarily change votes, but it was touted pretty much at town meeting with regard to economic development. One of the things that was omitted was the notion that potentially over 500 homes would be added as residents into the town. I know that 200 apartments were mentioned.
Mr. Harlow, I think that is a misrepresentation. There was a 70-30 split. They were saying 70% would be commercial, 30 would be residential. Of that. That was. I remember that personally. That's why I'm just saying. So kind of go back on to, yeah.
And then furthermore, contrary to what Mr. Warren had just presented, as I had stated in reading the article, there's not an attempt to actually get rid of town meeting. You'd still have town meeting, you'd still have debate, you'd still have the ability to amend articles. From there, they'd be gathered, they'd be understood, and then they would be put onto a ballot. So again, it would alleviate the confusion. And it gets back to misinformation. To me, that is misinformation to represent it as essentially getting rid of town meeting where you can come and talk to your neighbor and come face to face.
Thank you, Mr. Harlow. I have Mr. Gallagher.
I apologize. Paul Gallagher, 8 Longview Drive. I know it's not typical for a town clerk to get up and speak so often, but there's some pretty important stuff going on here tonight, and everyone needs to take consideration. We had one article where we were concerned about town meeting times and how we need to follow that. And then the next article said, well, it's in town meeting times, but we don't want to follow that. Let me just tell you, Josh made a good comment. things are not that simple. This article to go to a ballot is something that we have no idea what we're getting into. Should require a lot of town input from the residents. Just one instance alone, you would have, every other year, you would have a town election, a ballot election, a state election. People are not going to go to all three of those elections within a 1 or 2 month period. They're going to, you're not creating anything new. This is the best form of democracy, and we need to keep it. If people can show up, they can show up. If they can't, they can't. I am tired personally, as a taxpayer and a resident, of hearing people complain that, oh, it's on a Saturday. Well, you could go Tuesday. Well, I work Tuesday. Well, you could go Thursday. I don't have a babysitter Thursday. I've been in town for over 28 years, and I started from the first one, and I don't think I've missed any, because it's important to be here if you want to complain. It's important to be here to make sure that you have your input on the budget. We have seen, this is personally, you might not see it yet, but we have seen incredible improvement on the budget process by these two boards. You'll see it improve even more next year. Worrying about what's on, I wish everybody would just stop worrying about what's on Facebook.
Yeah. And
It's
Mr. Gallagher, I have great pleasure in saying, please wrap it up.
I will wrap it up. I will wrap it up right now. We talk about disinformation out there on social media. The disinformation is when someone says something real, someone else doesn't like it, so they claim it's fake news. That's what it comes down to. If you're willing to put in the time and the effort to find out what's going on and come and vote, then you're going to be satisfied when you're done. Let's try to keep it that way.
Ms. Coleman.
Hello, Jean Coleman, 20 Hollands Lane. I have a couple, I guess, clarification questions for the board regarding this article, because I have very mixed feelings about it. For being on the Kingston School Committee, it worries me that if we send our entire budget to a ballot vote, that things could get nixed, or that our budget may not pass, and then we have to then go back and change our budget, whereas on the town meeting floor, we may have had an opportunity to explain to the voters what is in our budget. So from that aspect, the ballot worries me. From a contradictory standpoint, we listened 2 years ago regarding the library vote. We listened to everybody tell us how it is a form of democracy to let more people vote and to let the entire town of 9,000 voters go to the ballot box and make that decision rather than just the 400 people that were in that room that night. So it's almost contradictory to hear tonight that taking it to the ballot would be removing, the power of this body that does make the time and come. And one of the points I believe that I was making today on Facebook, Mr. Gallagher, was that those who find things important will make time. Those who find things important but can't go will make excuses. And I've walked out of my son's baseball game in the last inning twice this week to be here. So I do definitely feel like I'm doing my due diligence and making the time. But I can also see that if you look at Facebook right now and how the way that the vote went on Tuesday night, many voters are upset because they didn't have an opportunity to attend town meeting for whatever excuse or whatever reason. So I have mixed feelings, but my point of clarification that I'd like from the Board of Selectmen is right there in the top of the article, it says that the Board of Selectmen would be the one that would be in charge of which articles go to the ballot. So I guess my question to them would be, how would that be decided? Because to Mr. Gallagher's point, I understand that if it's too confusing, then it's going to add another election and take much more time. But if the articles that are going to the ballot are decided by the Board of Selectmen, why would they not support it, I guess? And then I'll wrap it up with that. So, thank you.
Board of Selectmen, who wants to address it? Mr. Warren? On the limited issue of why is the Board of Selectmen not supporting this when you would be the ones to choose what would go to the ballot?
It's not our article. We don't agree with it. May I also ask her a question about the school budget?
Yes.
Or answer her.
No, but I need you to keep answering this question.
Oh.
You're not supporting that the Board of Selectmen would choose which articles are going in?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Ms. Fiore can answer it? Yeah.
Because it also says in here, there's a provision that allows registered voters to petition for any article to go to the official ballot. So whatever articles the selectmen may or may not put on it, any registered voters can petition to put an article on the ballot, which could very well be the budget. And if the budget is voted down, the whole budget's voted down, and you don't know why the citizens voted it down. But yet, you gotta come back and cut it.
Should I do a motion to amend?
So thank
The
you. One second, I'm going to let Mr. Hollow address the issue, limited again on your question, which is the petition, petitioners can petition to put articles on the ballot. That's what you're addressing.
Thank you. Again, to that point, that's correct that it would allow for citizens to petition, but again, it gets back to citizens becoming involved, citizens partaking in the democratic process that it's constantly touted. And so what better way to, again, increase citizen participation than to keep the power within the hands of we the people ultimately. Again, the ultimate, the decision for articles to go to ballot or not would be up to the selectmen, but again, you still always have to have a provision for the citizens to be able to maintain the notion of we the people in terms of we ultimately are the ones that control and make the deciding factors on how the town is run so that the government can best facilitate our freedom. So again, that's why that provision is.
Thank you,
placed
Mr.
in there.
Hollow. Ms. Coleman, you wanted to make a motion to amend?
I was going to say, I would be happy to make a motion to amend that article that would remove that the citizens have a provision to vote for an article to be on the ballot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, any article can be,
just has to go
any
on the-
motion can be amended. Yeah.
A petitioned article just has to go on the warrant exactly as petitioned, but you can amend it.
Okay. I was just trying to find the provision. So from what I understand, you're saying is you want to move to amend to strike a provision that allows registered voters to petition for an article to go to the ballot.
Correct.
That's what you're looking to strike?
Yes. It'd be a sole discretion of the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Madam Moderator, can we get a clarification?
One second, let me do one thing at a time.
Thank you.
So it should be, can I do a friendly amendment here? It should be,
We haven't even gotten it. You need to come down and write it up.
because it should begin here, but at a minimum. You know what I mean?
The motion, is that the motion? That's not the
No,
motion.
this is how it's petitioned,
Okay.
but she's looking to strike, like from here, this comma,
Right.
to that.
But at a minimum, okay, yeah.
Excuse me.
Ms. Coleman?
Ms. Coleman, I think the way you want to write it is strike, but beginning at that.
Starting at, but at a minimum.
See?
Council's just correcting me that that would be the procedurally correct way, would, not where I started a provision. It would be, but at a minimum should include.
Because otherwise you
No,
have a
because we
hang.
have, then there's the next. No, that's
but
right.
it- that's-
Yep.
While this is going, do you mind if I run to?
No, go right ahead. All right, well, that's being written up. I'm gonna do my point of order over here, if you don't mind. No, do you have a piece of paper? You need to actually write, move to amend. Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. I'm just gonna drop it. Did it get to you? Mr. Gallagher, you need to take minutes. Sorry, because I'm just gonna, while we're waiting on this, I want to keep time going. Point of, oh, I'm sorry, she just went to the ladies' room. Sorry. Yeah. All right, so we'll hold, never mind, you can go back. I just thought, I just covered the point of order and, yeah. Right, we can't set tax, or we can't, yeah, I know. I know, but we talked about it was the next one. Right.
Because you have to have a budget.
Right. You done, what are you writing down there?
Mary.
Ms. Coleman, what are you writing?
Is there a
Okay.
time where, is there a cutoff for having a budget?
Okay. Official ballot, I just want to make sure that's right. Article to go to official ballot, okay. Coleman. Okay. There's your motion to amend.
No, it doesn't have to be the same one, it could be a different one, but the point is that then we'd have to go to another election.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have a motion to amend. We all know what it is. I'm going to take a second on that. Do I have a second on the motion to amend? I have a second on that. And Mr. Fonce, does your point of order go towards debating this motion to amend? Or can we wait 1 minute and start the debate on the motion to amend till council comes back? Thank you, I appreciate that. So we'll wait till she comes back. And so we're going to start, ladies and gentlemen, this is on the motion to amend only. So you're going to address the issue of the removal of the provision, but at a minimum should include a provision that allows registered voters to petition for an article to go to official ballot. That's what we're debating. So who would like to address that? Anyone?
Point of order, real quick, on this clarification. So does that mean that the public is unable to go into a petition article period to go to a warrant, or just specifically with regard to this article?
Just with regard to this going to a ballot.
Okay.
Yeah, just this to a ballot. That was Harlow, point of order.
On the amendment, yeah.
I don't want any of this.
Okay, Janet Stanford, 53 Evergreen Street. I think we need more time to talk about this article, because I can see Jeannie's point. If you have a school budget, I would hate that to go to a ballot.
Okay, but you can come back. I get what you're saying on that, but we need to just debate the motion to amend now. So
Well,
even
that's what
what we're debating is whether or not we should or shouldn't strike this.
Okay,
And I get what you're saying is, let's wait and have the whole article,
okay,
whatever.
so I'm against the amendment because I think citizens should have a right to petition, but I can see the concern that Jeannie's bringing up about the school. So maybe there should be an amendment to, I don't want to amend her amendment. What I'm trying to say is, maybe budget shouldn't be on there, and how could you put budgets on a ballot? Because you'd be going line for line, so I don't know if Mr. Harlow wants to answer that question, but I'm really confused about that, too.
If the budget went to a ballot, it's a full budget. It's not a line-by-line vote. It's voted in or voted out. And yes, that creates other complications, which would mean that we can't, because our budget sets our tax rate, which has to be finalized, Finance Committee, June, what's the date? No, but what is that?
The budget
Council.
the budget has to be set by June 30th.
Okay, June 30th. The budget has to be in place by state regulations by June 30th. So that becomes another issue if it doesn't pass and it goes back to another ballot. And
Otherwise, you can't pay your
Yeah.
bills.
Okay.
so is your motion then,
Oh, God.
can I take a second motion to amend, or I need to do?
You could amend her amendment.
She
but-
can't, she's not looking to amend the amendment. I think what she's looking to do is to amend, to strike the budget from being able to go to ballot.
So, yeah, you could take a motion to.
Should I
a
hold
second
my
motion to
amendment
amend.
till after we vote on this amendment?
That would be cleaner if she did that.
Yeah, I'm gonna take your second, I'm gonna make it a second motion to amend to, and so why don't you come down, write that with council while I'm doing that. Here you go. And we'll go back to your motion to amend, which I can table for right this minute while we go back. Ladies and gentlemen, on the debate, purely on the issue of striking that provision.
Michael Cow, 163 Summer Street. I'm opposed to the amendment for the same reason I'm opposed to the underlying motion. I think this is too vague. I think it's overbroad, and I think that this is simply the wrong forum and the wrong format to have arguments about this level of detail. I think this needs to be brought forth as a whole proposal, if it's going to be brought forth, like this amendment would need to be, so that we have a clear understanding of what's going on. I think this is going to get even more vague, even more unclear, even more confusing. I'd urge a no vote on the motion and on the underlying motion as well.
Thank you, Mr. Cowett. Did I see Ms. Fury? Again, on the motion to strike the provision that allows citizens to petition. Yeah.
I agree with what Mr. Coward said, and let's just remember what happened last year with the marijuana vote that got so many amendments that it got so confusing. We spent even more time trying to correct what people assumed was happening and didn't. I agree, vote no on all the amendments to this, and vote no on the article. If Mr. Bonsack wants to get a committee going to discuss this, then Mr. Bonsack can do that, because that's his article. This is his article.
Thank you, Ms. Fury. Anybody else on the motion to strike? Yep, are you up for strike, or?
Well, apparently it's reading my mind. I agree with Ms. Fiore, I agree with the
Name?
gentleman.
Sorry.
Lorraine Bergio, Winthrop Street. I agree with Ms. Fiore, I agree with the gentleman before me. I oppose the amendment, I oppose the article. Nobody has brought up the simple fact of how much is it gonna cost us to do all of this balloting and have all these elections and have all these people come in. Nobody's brought up the fact, what's the specific criteria that the Board of Selectmen are gonna set? We have no idea. It's extraordinarily vague. And the confusion that was happening on the floor on Tuesday night with the over 400 people, it's because about 300 of them hardly ever come to town meeting. So they were so confused because of all the going back and forth. If you want to get more people at town meeting, have a lottery. You'll have everybody here because no one will ever know when the article is going to come up that they're supporting. So they will come because they don't know when their number's going to come up.
The bingo,
I don't know if,
yeah.
I don't know if Kingston's ever done it. I've only been here 4 years. But I have lived in a community where they did do it. And we had bumper crop attendance, I'll tell you, because nobody knew when their number was going to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bergio. In case anybody doesn't understand what she was talking about, many towns, and it's interesting in the Moderators Association when we have our meetings, the bingo, it's literally in a bingo thing, you know, like this, and then all the balls go in, and you pull it out in whatever order they're in, they're in. And so it does affect attendance, by the way. So, Mr. Font, you had a point of order. I'd like to address it now. Is that?
Never mind. It's all
Wait
set.
till.
It's okay. Yeah.
Just strike it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. It was just actually, you know what? It was just a clarification. It wasn't even a point of order. I just wanted clarification from town council because the discussion was kind of hard to hear, but I thought I heard you say that petition articles have to go on the warrant. Is that?
If you file a petition article sufficient with the clerk's office, the Board of Selectmen is obligated to put it on the warrant as is.
Unless it's an illegal.
Yeah, unless it's an illegal article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that point of clarification, Madam Moderator.
Yeah,
It's interesting that part was left out, but thank you. I think you know where I was going with that.
I do.
Getting to the motion that's on the floor here. I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised that we're all in this room exercising our voice to be heard, to vote, and I get it. People should come. More people should come. We hear a lot of talk about people who are disenfranchised. We have a lot of talk about affordable housing in this town, people that maybe just, are having a tough time making ends meet. And I'll be honest with you, I am sure that there is a segment of the population that simply cannot afford.
Mr. Fonso, we're just, blah, blah, blah. We're just debating the motion to amend to strike the citizens petition.
Exactly.
Okay.
So get
on that.
Right. So there are people that would like to be able to petition the government, but don't have the ability to necessarily come to town meeting to do so. So I think it's rather hypocritical of us to exercise our voices, but then get up here and say, like, we don't think the people should be able to petition the government as they see fit in this manner. So I don't think that should be removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further debate on the motion to amend on striking the citizen vote is right? You want up, Mr. Basler?
I'll agree with the speaker before, Mr. Fons. I would urge everybody to vote no on the amendment, vote no on the article. We debated last Saturday, about $15,000 in open space. It took us 25 minutes. Because I work for the town, I talked to the town clerk, I know that the elections, or a ballot election, costs around $10,000 per episode. I keep hearing we're the people, we the people. We the people voted the people in front of this room to sit in front of this room. Now I'm tired of hearing we the people. The selectmen and the FinCom are voted by the majority of the town of Kingston to represent the town of Kingston. If you don't like the members of the Board of Selectmen, then I suggest you petition and run against them and beat them.
Well, that's really not quite in the idea of the motion to strike citizens being allowed to file
But
petitions.
part of the motion, Madam Moderator, is to give less say to the people in charge of the town, which are those 5 selectmen over there.
Okay.
And the selectmen have now, according to this petition article, would have the authority to put what they decide on a ballot or not. Let this body stay the way it is. I don't like coming here longer than anybody else. I've been doing this for 24 years. Vote no on the article, vote no on the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, anybody else on just the motion to strike? Yes.
Kevin Walsh, 56 Indian Pond. With all due respect to the Board of Selectmen, I think with this amendment, it would give them more power than I think they should have. They would be able to cherry pick things that would appeal to a broader vote. I think maybe a better format would be something electronic, something that could reach people in their homes, although that's out of the scope of this amendment. I would encourage people to vote no on both the amendment and the article. Thank you.
On the motion to amend?
It may be more of a point of order.
Sure.
But
What's your name?
My name is Paul Sardella, 73 Ring Road, and I wanted to see if we could actually table this issue until there's actually representative amount of people of the town, as opposed to just 120 some odd people in the room. I was here Tuesday night with over 400 and some odd people with issues that were important to those people, specific issues. However, they're not, the majority of those people that were here Tuesday night are not here. Nor are the people that were here on Saturday are not here. This is a significant issue that will affect our town and everybody in the room and that's out of the room. And I think there needs to be more representation of the town to make an important vote on this. And so I recommend that we table this issue to a later date.
1 minute, Mr. Sardonis. I just don't want you to leave one yet.
Sardella.
I'm sorry, what?
Sardella.
Sardella. Sorry. Sardella. I think on Saturday I was just calling you Mr. S, wasn't I? Yeah. Sorry.
It was a
This is
long
my
day.
shortened version. So amendment is a subsidiary motion, but so is the money on the table. So
This one goes supersedes because it's above.
it's a 6 and a motion to amend is 11. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, because we now have a motion to table, and from his comment, I'm going to assume you're making a motion to table indefinitely. And because this meeting would end right after we had this vote, the meeting will become dissolved. It would mean that it would not be heard. So just so everybody knows, it means it would have to be refiled and redone in the normal course. I'm just double checking with council on the motion to table indefinitely. Council, sorry. That's all right. Motion to, on the motion to table indefinitely, because normally if you have a motion to table, you have to take it off before you close. But on this one, motion to table indefinitely with it being the last article.
It would kill it.
It would kill it, just kill it, okay. So it would kill. Huh? But it can be brought back at the next town meeting, there'd be no prohibition from that.
So it can be brought back, okay.
So I have a motion to table, which, what I was looking in the trusty little town meeting time again for, was that I knew that that was a subsidiary motion. Things have main motion subsidiary, they all have different standing. Motion to table actually has a standing of 6. A motion to amend has a standing of 11. That means the motion to table supersedes the motion to amend, so we can hear that first. So, so we're gonna do the motion to, lay it on the table indefinitely. So do I have a second? Ladies and gentlemen, laying on the table indefinitely, being seconded, is also, it's seconded required, not debatable, not amendable, but I will tell you, it requires a 2/3 vote. So I will do a count immediately on it. Point of order? Yeah.
If this were to go to vote, and just say hypothetically it were defeated, it can be repetitioned at a subsequent town meeting, correct?
Correct. Yep. There'd be no, there's no prohibition for it to be reapplied for in the next town meeting. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is on the motion to table indefinitely, all right? So, on the motion to table indefinitely, I'm going to do a count if my tellers can come forward, and let's do a count right away on that. It requires a 2/3 vote. So, ladies and gentlemen, all those in favor of the motion to table indefinitely, orange card in the air. Mr. Basler.
40.
Mr. Basler's 40. Mr. Pepe.
36.
Mr. Pepe is 36. Mr. Armstrong? 28 is Mr. Armstrong. Ladies and gentlemen, all those opposed to laying it on the table indefinitely, which would basically kill it, is that. I already announced it, yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just looking.
Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I get this count, because I'm always cut off, I would like to thank our police officers, Lieutenant Wells, Lieutenant Kelly, Sergeant Patricus, and Officer Loring, who help us all the time at these annual town meetings. I want to thank greatly our COT representatives, Mona Leviton and Catherine Zielinski. They've been here for 3 nights. They're so dedicated in being here, and they're a wonderful attribute, because I know when I talk fast and anybody else, y'all read it up there. I want to thank the tellers, Mr. Pepe, Mr. Armstrong, and Mr. Basler, and also Mr. O'Brien. And then lastly, the clerks and all the workers out there who have done a great job. And Tuesday night, they were worked. And I would love to see that every town meeting, but I want to just thank them. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Basler, what is your count?
Number 8.
You have 8. And Mr. Pepe? 0. Mr. Pepe has 0. Mr. Armstrong? 5. Mr. Armstrong is 5. Ladies and gentlemen, the motion to lay on the table passes with a majority vote. Not reconsiderating. Yeah. So it passes on a 2/3 vote with 104 in favor and 13 in opposition. Right. Yeah. It's not reconsidered, folks. It's not reconsiderable. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will take a motion to adjourn Sunday.
We're done?
And I have a second on that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.